All right, all right, all right. I think we're live. We are live. We are live. Well, cool. Sick. Hello, everybody. Good to see you, everyone.
Hello,
Daniel.
Daniel.
Great to be with you.
Sweet. Oh, it's working. Great. So, I'm going to show this quick video just to kind of take us back to the days.
All right. I think we're live.
Oh.
We are live.
Is that me?
Someone's too live.
Who's watching? Who is watching it?
I think that was me.
She's watching herself.
Who's
Sorry.
watching?
Then
Carry on.
What I thought we'll do, I will show a video of the days when we were able to do gigs. So let's watch it. Here we go. Oh man, remember those days.
Wow.
It feels so long ago.
Remember when we were able to do gigs and be in front of people. Do you remember what it meant, what it looked like to be on the stage and sing songs and then people will sing them back to you? And then
We just never really reached that point, you know. We only had 2 gigs. That was it. No.
Although we actually got a booking through. We've got a gig confirmed.
really?
Yeah, New Year in Switzerland. So we've actually got a gig.
Happy New Year.
That's amazing.
I mean,
Wow.
it's a long way away.
A long way away. Let's hope that everything will be cool by then. We've got a few inquiries as well. Which is for some schools. I know some schools. I don't even know how they're expecting it to happen because schools is not a thing really. But anyway, it is what it is, right? It is what it is. Cool. Shall we just go around and introduce each other? Yeah.
Let's do it.
Cool. So I'm gonna start with my top left. So the person that's it was Gina.
Woo!
Who are you, Gina? Tell us who you are.
My name is Gina and I am the singer in OTC. That is me.
Sick. Okay. Next, underneath Gina is Andy.
Hello, my name is Andy. I am the drummer in Amongst Wolves, and I love all these guys. They're great.
No. Big love. And then to Andy's right, we have John. Go on, John.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name's John. I'm from a band called Soulbox. I'm a singer and a rapper.
Sick.
And I'm real happy to be here.
Yeah, sorry, I am really happy.
I'm really excited.
It's because I'm watching the YouTube at the same time from Soulbox, so I'm kind of half distracted seeing if anybody wants to say anything. So if
Yeah,
anyone
I did the
on
same.
any of our YouTube channels, drop a message or a question because I'm fully ready. I'm ready for
I'm
you.
ready. I got the double thing going on as well.
Yeah.
Got the double thing going on. And my name is Daniel, and I am from Brightline. I am the conductor of Brightline. I am the. What am I? I am the. I would like to say glue, but I don't feel like I am the glue. I feel like I am. I don't know what I am.
Conductor works, mate.
You are
Conductor.
Daniel.
I'm Daniel, the conductor. I'm Daniel, the dancer. I'm Daniel.
I always think you're like, you know, you get a cake and then there's the icing. Like you can eat the cake without the icing, but the icing make it taste better. That's what you are to Brightline.
But then you can't eat the icing without the cake because that would be
That's
weird.
what I'm saying.
Oh, I do that all the time. I live for the icing.
Where you
I
just
actually
cut
do.
the icing off and
Mhm.
eat it. All right, fair enough. Cool. So today is the 3rd session for Higher Life. Now, Gina, you've been on 2 of these. Well, this is your second one, right?
Yeah.
This is your first one, John, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my
And this is your first one as well, Andy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's my first one.
So welcome to Higher Life. And now the reason why we're doing these sessions is because, you know, when we've done gigs and when we've been in school, you know, people ask us a whole bunch of questions about faith, about what it means to follow Jesus. And these sessions, we are exploring that, especially for people that made a decision to follow Jesus and said, yes, I want to put my faith and my trust in Jesus. These sessions that we're doing on a Wednesday at 5 p.m. is so that young people and people in general can just ask us a whole bunch of questions and learn a little bit more what it means to follow Jesus. So the first session that we did, we talked about the gospel, this good news, this amazing good news that we can now be in a relationship with God because of what Jesus did, that actually we can have true life, real life, not just mere existence. We can have true life, experience true love, experience true hope. So that was the first session. Last week, we were talking about prayer and actually this whole sense of that we can actually chat with God and that God wants to speak to us and God wants to be in a relationship with us, which was cool. And a whole bunch of people were giving examples of how prayer works and asking for prayer and all that kind of stuff, which was sick, was amazing. And I thought today what we could do, talk about the Bible, which is such a big, important part of our adventure, relationship, journey with Jesus, isn't it? It's just so fundamental. And I want to start off, actually, I was going to give you some facts, but I think that that's going to come a little bit later. I'm going to ask a question, and maybe I will ask Andy.
Okay.
This question: what do you think are some misconceptions, I guess, people have of the Bible? What are some of the misconceptions?
There's loads of misconceptions people have about the Bible. There's like big ones and there's like small ones. Like some of the smaller ones, for example, people think, oh, Mary rode to Bethlehem on a donkey. Like it's as simple as that. The Bible never actually says, or even more simple, people think things like there were 3 wise men. There was actually never specified how many wise people turned up to give Jesus gifts at his birth. But then also there's like bigger, broader misconceptions, things like what the Bible actually is. A lot of people will think, oh, it's just a book of rules, things you have to do if you want to get to heaven, a book of things God is telling you so you can't have fun. Even that you have to read it from start to finish, that's a whole load of misconceptions. You can read any book you like in the Bible. The Bible is a book of 66 books. You can pick any single one of them and read it start to finish however you like, whatever order. And I think that's one of the most exciting things about it.
Sweet. So true, because the Bible is basically like a library, isn't it? It's a compilation of 66 books, like you said, written by different 66 books written by different authors, different people from different eras, from different areas, from different even countries and regions, and that kind of stuff, which is really cool. I think one of the big things people many times think is like, oh, it's not a reliable book, that the Bible can't be trusted because it's written by a whole bunch of people. And I was reading this here's a little fact for you guys.
Okay.
So check this out. Right, interesting. Just to even talking about the reliability of the Bible. So Plato's book, right, was written between 427 and 347 BC. The earliest copy before Christ, right? The earliest copy of that Plato book is 900 AD. So the approximate time between the span between the original and its copy is 1,300 years, and there's only 7 copies in the world.
Wow.
And the accuracy of those copies, we're not sure. Caesar, the book about Caesar, written between 100 and 44 BC, earliest copy 900 AD, approximate time span between the original and copy 1,000 years, number of copies 10. So the New Testament, right? New Testament, written between 50 and 100 AD, earliest copy 130 AD, so only 30 years afterwards. Approximate time span between original and copy, less than 100 years, which is very different to the 1,300 years by Plato. Number of copies, 5,600. Accuracy of the copies, 99.5%.
Yo, that's a lot, man.
And did you know it's the most stolen book in history?
Yeah.
The Bible.
Yeah.
The Bible is the most stolen book in history.
Do you know about you know what I find sick as well about all that is have you heard of the Dead Sea Scrolls? I don't know if you plan on talking about these today.
No, go for it.
Nice.
So the Dead Sea Scrolls,
Break
right?
it down.
These were these books. So the Old Testament. So you got the New and the Old Testament, right? And the Bible consists of loads of books, but there's some books in the Old Testament which are like super old. If I'm right in thinking, I think they're around 3,000 years old. From what this is off the top of my head, so I can check it in a second. The actual things of it. But basically, there were these. And the way they used to keep them was incredible. So people used to train and learn just how to translate these books because they didn't have big printers back in the day. They didn't have these big like machine workshops that would repeat and repeat and repeat and get things exactly right. What they used to do with the books in the Old Testament, which is the Torah, they used to take it and break it down precisely every single time. And that was some people's jobs, right? Now, people always talk about the consistency of the Bible, which blows my mind. I think it's a very, very important question. And if it's something that isn't totally accurate, it does genuinely compromise our belief, and it compromises unbelief in what the Bible is. So Dead Sea Scrolls were these things in these big jars, right? So there's this guy called Muhammad. I think we were in somewhere, I can't remember the country, but this boy called Muhammad, who was a goat farmer, and he was taking his goats from one side of the mountain to another side of the mountain. As he went around the mountain, he found this cave, right? And he threw this stone into this cave, and and he heard it like tip down. Right? They go into the cave, and he finds these big pots. He finds some of the original books from the Old Testament that are something like crazy, like 3,000 years old, kept intact amazingly, because the way these guys kept them was insane. They opened the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the translations are exactly the same. Now, I say exactly the same. Now, there are some things that can't be exactly the same, because there are some words in translation that can mean multiple things, right? Yeah. But it's insane. Like, the consistency of the Bible genuinely blows my mind.
Yeah,
that's one story. You can check that out online if you're at a computer now. Amazing, the Dead Sea Scrolls.
I find it so crazy, right? Obviously, we got the Bible now in multiple languages, right? But, and like you're saying, the Old Testament and the New Testament, and I guess the Bible split into these two parts: Old Testament, New Testament, and the languages utilized in all the Bible. You got Hebrew, you got Aramaic, and you got Greek. And just to think, 3 languages, but from the get-go, from the first book, which is Genesis, to the last book, which is Revelation, the consistency of the storyline. Because we when we read the Bible, we are understanding. It's the greatest adventure ever. It's this love story of God and humanity, isn't it?
Yeah.
And if we want to know more about who Jesus is, if you want to know more about who God is, we read the Bible, and the consistency and this thread that goes throughout this whole book is genuinely unbelievable. There's no way that this could have been made up, because it's impossible. 3 different languages throughout a massive span of time, and it's consistent and points always to this one person, and his name is Jesus. It's crazy. This week I think we took a leaf off your book, John, and we did a little Crash Bandicoot Nitro race thing. Brightline did, right? We all raced against each other, and it got us thinking. As we were playing, we got us thinking, like, man, don't you sometimes wish that you had some kind of sort of superpower, or be able to do the impossible stuff, or be able to, I don't know, have something that would levitate you and fly you faster, all that kind of stuff? It just kind of got us thinking, and then got us thinking like some stories in the Bible where you just see some crazy, what seem impossible things to happen, and you see God doing some amazing stuff. Some amazing, crazy stories. So we start sharing some of our stories, some of our favorite parts in the Bible. And I'm curious, Gina, what is probably your favorite, and maybe the other guys as well, but what's your favorite story? What's that one story that you're like, watch this, and I'm like, oh, mind blown. This is insane.
Honestly, like, if the Bible is a cinematic epic, right? Like, forget Game of Thrones, forget the MCU. Honestly, some of the stuff that happens in the Bible, if that was a film, man, it would be breaking ticket offices. My favorite story in the whole Bible, in the Old Testament, like, crazy big things happen, like you were saying then, Daniel. Like, the guy called Moses, God literally uses him to part a sea, like a flipping sea, like that's an ocean. He just says the word and it splits, and him and all his people go through it, and then the Egyptians are trying to chase him down, and the sea comes crashing in on them. Like, God has the power to do that just through a guy called Moses, which is insane. But I think for me, like, the stuff that I just love to read in the Bible is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the Gospels. They're the accounts, the real life accounts of Jesus's life. Like, we can actually read about the life of Jesus and what Jesus did when he walked here on the planet. It's insane. And Jesus would just do amazing things all the time. Like, there's a lady who's had this issue with her body for, like, since she can remember. She just bleeding. She touches Jesus's cloak, and instantly, just like that, she's healed. She's better. This thing that's been with her for years, just no more. And, like, Jesus raises people from the dead. Like, he just says the word. He says, "Come back to life," or like "wake up," and he's just raising people from the dead. So I think it's just reading about the crazy things that Jesus did and the miracles that he did, and just the way that he will just be walking past somebody who was blind and they'll be able to see. And
Yeah,
it's crazy. Like,
Mad.
wow,
Mad.
power of Jesus. It's amazing.
it's cool. I like that. And any favorite stories, Andy?
Famous stories. I love the one in this book called Second Kings, which is one of the storytelling historic books of the Bible, where it just tells the story of Israel and where it's up to between the start of the country and when it goes into captivity. It's about halfway through the book of Second Kings, or first one of the Kings, and there's this guy called Elijah, and his job is to hear what God is saying and tell people what God is saying and correct people where they're wrong. He's what's called a prophet. He's got a really awesome job because he literally gets to live, walking his life side by side with God, seeing awesome stuff. And there's one time there's this guy and there's people chasing him. Like this whole army appears on the top of the hill, and this guy runs to Elijah and he's like, "Yo, man, like, look at these guys. There's nothing we can do about this. We've got to just surrender." He's like, "No, like, God's on our side." He's like, "How can you say that? Look at this army that's chasing us." And Elijah's like, "If you could see what I can see, you'd be as calm as I am." And Elijah prays for him. He says, "Right, Lord, I pray you open this guy's eyes so that he can see what I can see." And what he can see when the guy opens his eyes is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of angels surrounding that army. And that just screams God's character to me, because no matter what we're facing, it's like God is doing stuff we can't even see. So one of the prayers that I pray most often is, "Lord, let me see what's going on from your point of view," so that it takes my view away from myself and whatever I'm facing. It's like, God is doing stuff that I can't even comprehend right now. I need to trust he knows what he's doing. That's why I love that story.
Amazing, man. And you know what? And then I guess we can say as well that God then speaks to us through that, isn't it? 'Cause it's more than just reading stories. Like, you read a story in a book and it's like, oh, this is entertaining. But in this particular case, bro, you read this story and eyes are open as if like something fall off his eyes and he sees what God is doing. And that speaks directly to our life, isn't it? And that speaks directly. And maybe it's God's trying to tell us, actually, don't be looking at your circumstances, but try and look at it from the perspective of God. Try and see the way that God sees it, which is, again, mind-blowing. What about you, John? Any particular story like, yo, this is my favorite story of the Bible? Maybe this is my favorite sentence, or...
Yeah, I mean, my favorite... there's so many though, isn't there? As I go to say one, I go to say another. I love loads of the Bible. My favorite story is the story of a guy named Stephen, who was like the first guy who was, sounds a bit deep, who like died for his faith. But he's the first guy who for me, when I first became a Christian, I read that part and I was really inspired by someone who lived out their faith. That's what I found really encouraging. But my favorite kind of narrative, if you like, of the Bible, certainly in the Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John that Jeannie was mentioning, which is the first 4 books of the New Testament, is who Jesus chooses to be his disciples. They're my favorite things, is because usually you would think, the person that the Son of God is going to choose, right, is going to be like the most intelligent people, or the wealthiest people, or like, I don't know, the best looking people, or anything. And you can see from this group that we're definitely not the best looking. I'm saying is like, the people that God chose were the people who were the bottom of society. He chose the poor people, the people that you wouldn't choose, the uneducated people. And he took them, and the influence that those 12 men and Jesus had over the world was incredible. The influence that you can still see today. The reason we're having this Zoom conversation is because of the influence those people had. So the narrative of the lowest of the low becoming empowered, which is what I love. And I think that's what happens when we come into a relationship with God. Our full potential is unearthed and birthed out, which is wicked.
I think...
I can't hear you, mate. Sorry.
You can't hear me. I just said amazing. I was just taken back by your words. I was like, amazing. One of my favorite stories is a story, I think it's in John 11, where one of Jesus's mates died, a guy called Lazarus, right? And it's just this sense of just awesomeness, I guess. I mean, Jesus rocks up at the funeral. Maybe that's probably the right way of doing it, isn't it? Why he's saying it. He rocks up at the funeral and everyone is crying. And then this is the shortest verse in the Bible where it says that Jesus wept. And probably it's the only moment that says that Jesus wept. And I'm like, you see Jesus having this emotion of his mate passing away, and maybe even just seeing how people are kind of reacting to it, and it's like, taken back by it. But I just love this moment where Jesus just calls out Lazarus and says, Lazarus, come out. And then you see this guy wrapped up in whatever he was wearing when he got buried, coming out of the tomb, I guess in modern days would be like coming out of the casket, which would kind of be scary, I guess. But you just see him coming out and coming back to life. And I'm like, oh my gosh, imagine what it must have been like to be there, right? Imagine you are there. My guy's been dead for 3 days. And then Jesus shouts out, come out. And then all of a sudden, my guy who was buried 3 days ago comes back to life and then goes out for dinner with you. Mm-hmm. Like, what the heck, man? That's insane. But then what's cool, what I love about that story as well, because not only Jesus did that, but Jesus does that with all of our lives, right? Jesus literally, because like we were talking about in the first session about the gospel and the good news that we can have true life. You know, the opposite of life is death, isn't it? And the Bible talks about how we were dead, we were spiritually dead, we were dead in our sins, we were dead in our evil. And Jesus kind of stretches out and calls our name and brings us back to life. And I'm like, that's what's up, you know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why I want to introduce other people to this amazing Jesus, so then he can bring them out of death, you know what I'm saying? He can bring them out of that casket and bring. That was why we wrote that whole song Zombie. There was a couple of gigs where we used to have a coffin on stage and I would come out that coffin.
Yeah, remember that.
It was a bit strange.
You know what else I love about that analogy of Lazarus as well, which, like, imagine someone who's been dead for imagine how much that guy smelled. Like, he wouldn't have been a clean guy. He wouldn't have been someone that you would want to hang out with. He's just been raised from the dead, come out of tomb, and he stinks. And that, in the same way that you talk about the analogy of coming into God, death smells. If we're talking about going from death to life, you know what? Don't wait to be the perfect person before coming into a relationship with God, because you will never come into a relationship with God, because sin smells. The stuff we do wrong, we're broken people. It's horrible. You know, but coming into a relationship with God, you can be brought out of that. Like Lazarus. Transformation.
Is that transformation. And that's not saying that life then will be all peach and flowers and all that kind of stuff, because you'll still have rocky times and there'll be still storms in life. But the thing about it is then we're not alone in any of that. In that journey, in the midst of that journey, God is there with us. Jesus is there with us, which is the beautiful thing. John, why? So we all read the Bible, don't we? You know, that's something that we do. That's part of our kind of following Jesus. That's part of our devotion, disciplines, I guess. Why, John, do you read the Bible? Personally, why do you read the Bible, bro?
We've kind of covered it a little bit. The reason I read the Bible is it's like for me having a personal conversation with God, right? Genuinely. It's like if I'm ever struggling or finding things difficult, I look at the Bible and I read the Bible and I go, it makes me feel better, because I feel like I'm having interaction with my Father in heaven. Also, it's because of what you touched on a little bit earlier, Daniel, actually, is the fact that it's this story of God and humanity, and this beautiful relationship that you can constantly see, this kind of breaking up of a relationship, and then it comes back into a relationship through Jesus, and then the growth of that relationship, which is now what we see as the church. That's why it excites me. And also I love it because it's real as well. That's why I love it. People often tell me that it's a load of rubbish, or a load of this or a load of that. And it's not. It's real. Yeah. And that's why I love it. It's a real book. I like real things.
It's good.
It's like the ultimate truth. So why wouldn't I read it?
It's good. Gina, why do you read the Bible, mate?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, going off the back of what John said, I think for me it's just truth. When stuff's not making sense, or I'm super confused, or stuff just feels really muddled and confused in my head. Like I read some of the stories in the Bible, I read the Gospels, I read Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and you get to know God through it. Like the way that Jesus was on earth, like we believe that same Jesus is alive today, right? So if you read the Bible, you're getting to know God, you're getting to know what he's like. And that helps just any confusion, any muddleness, any depression, any anxiety, like just getting to know who God is by reading the Bible helps all of that. So it's just so important. I wouldn't be able to do life if I didn't read the Bible, because I wouldn't be getting to know God. And if I'm not in a relationship with God, then like I don't know how I'd do it. So for me, it's like I have to read the Bible. Otherwise, like it's just not going to be a pretty sight. Like it's just true. And yeah, that's why I read the Bible.
Sick. Cool. For anyone that's watching on YouTube, if you've got any questions, just type them questions in, and we will do our best to answer those questions as well. Andy, what would be one tip if someone's like, you know what, I kind of want to start checking the Bible out? What would be that one tip that you would give them?
Yes. If you've never picked up a Bible before, keep in your mind, it wasn't originally written in English. That's the first thing I'm going to say. Remember, it was written, like Daniel said, in 3 different languages over the course of at least 4,000 years, potentially, by at least 40 different people. They've all had an input, but it tells the overarching story of God creating us and loving us messing that up, and God doing something about that so that we can be restored. That's the overarching story. Keep that in your mind. But then remember, the best way to read your Bible, and this is the most important thing, I always pick myself up on this, always read the Bible in context. It wasn't written today, it wasn't written last week, it wasn't even written 100 years ago, it was written up to 2000. Like the most recent parts of the Bible were written 2000 years ago. That's easy to think, how can it still be relevant, because so much time has changed, but people are still the same. So make sure when let's say you start at page 1, Genesis, the first book, a lot of that is poetic language. A lot of scholars believe that's art and history combined, people describing stuff that happened, using poetry to describe it. And then you'll get a few books along and then there's just a whole bunch of rules and you're like, what's that all about? And you'll realize actually that's God talking to the very brand new nation of Israel at the time. They'd just come out of slavery and they needed rules and they needed a way to live, because before then they just lived as slaves. So that's why all the rules are there. And then it tells a story of them as a brand new country and just how all the kings and all their rulers and all their leaders lived their lives and how they led the people. And it's just remembering which part of the Bible you're reading, why you're reading it, and how it's relevant to tell you who God is. That's what I love reading about the Bible, because it's fascinating, because there's so much information you can get. 1, about who we are, but 2, more importantly, about who God is. And that's why you should read it. Read it with the point of view of who is God, what situation was the person facing, and how is God speaking to me through that.
Sick. Amazing, man. Thanks, bro. And John, what if someone was, Andy mentioned a couple of books. If someone's to start in one particular place, one particular book, is there like a recommendation? Would you say, you know what, check this one out? Check, like, I don't know. Well, I'm not going to mention a book. I'll let you mention it. I don't want to put words.
I'd go for one of the 4 Gospels, which is the first 4 books of the New Testament, which is the second half of the Bible. I'd go for Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John. And I think I'd start on Mark personally. Mark is the shortest, isn't it? I'm right.
Yeah, fast-paced one, yeah.
So literally, if you want to get a good idea of the life of Jesus, because, we bang on about him, and I would suggest you look at Jesus first and his life. If you're coming with no prior knowledge, I'd say look at Jesus and go for the book of Mark, just because it's the shortest. You finish it quicker and you feel like you've achieved a bit more.
All about perspective, right? All about perspective. Cool, man. Thanks for that. Any questions? Does anyone have any questions? People have asked anything?
Yeah, we have one. So we've got, where's Ben? Unfortunately, Ben isn't here today, but I think, is he here next one?
I think so. I think it's so. The next one, yeah.
Tune in next Wednesday at 5 p.m. and Ben will be on here. And another one is one maybe you start with this, Daniel. I mean, I can answer, but we'll have a good discussion about it. It's by a guy called Pappy Fox. And he says, to be honest, I really do have a question. Since you all believe in God and stuff, I agree. I believe in God and stuff. What are your thoughts about gay people? And then he says, you can dodge the question if you want, but he really wants the thoughts. So, mate, let's go for it. Pappy Fox will answer your question, my friend.
Yes, we
What
will.
are your thoughts, I guess, about same-sex relationships and same-sex feelings? Let's go for that.
Yeah,
that
bro,
question.
bro. It's a good question, man. Thank you, Pappy Fox. I appreciate that. So I would say this. I believe that God loves people. All right. And I believe as a follower of Jesus, I am meant to do what Jesus told me to do, which is love my God with everything that I have, mind, body, my soul, with everything that I have, and love my neighbor as myself. And that's what Jesus told me to do. So my attitude towards, I guess, people in saying who attract the same people, same gender, same sex, my job is to love them. I look at what the Bible talks about and what Jesus talks about and Jesus' perfect plan. And I believe that Jesus' perfect plan is to be in a relationship with him, to be living life to the full, like Jesus says in John 10:10, I came to give life so that you can live life to the full. But then when it comes to same-sex relationships, when it comes to people feeling those feelings, I believe when it comes to marriage, I believe that God intended it to be between a man and a woman. I believe that's the way that God orchestrated it. I believe that's the way that God intended to be. So I think what we try to do is we try to fall into God's plan. Most importantly is we try to love God with everything that we have, with every aspect of our life, with every aspect of our being. And then I believe that everything then falls into place.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting as well, because as society, we kind of, we're pushed sexuality.
That's the top thing, the main thing. That's the main thing. That's where your identity lies.
Exactly. It's like, what is your identity? What defines you, right? That people ask. And the first thing people will say is either their gender or their sexuality. And I say, actually, the thing that goes top is relationship with God. Those things come second. Those things aren't even initially the thing that comes as defining yourself. I believe you will find your purpose and your meaning in life if you define yourself as I am a child of God.
Yeah.
Before your sexuality, I'm a child of God. Before my gender, I'm a child of God. Before anything else, I'm a child of God. And then I believe that you'll find the right, you'll kind of figure that out for yourself if you're in relationship with God. It is also what I think.
Yeah.
And
Because
it's the top topic. Everyone wants to know. Sorry, I'm going on the thing. It's the big topic. Everyone wants to ask this question, and it's quite a loaded question. If you are gay, if you have same-sex feelings, God still loves you. It doesn't mean God doesn't love you just because you have same-sex feelings or in a same-sex relationship. God loves you and wants to be in a relationship with you. Now, you see, my life, when I became a Christian, there was lots of stuff that was not right with my life. I had an alcoholism issue. I was selling drugs. I was involved in fighting. I was involved in violence. All of those things. I needed to sort so much stuff out. We come to God as we are, right? So there is no reason. I remember one boy came up to me and said in the school, and this broke my heart. He said, a Christian told me I'm going to hell because I am gay. That is not the truth. And do not listen to people if you hear that. Now, do we believe, like what Daniel's saying, there are different things and different issues. There are lifestyle choices that you can make, which we believe align with what God says. But don't for a second think you're not loved because you are gay or you have sex.
You are loved. You are 100%. And I think it's the whole thing of falling into God's perfect plan. So because many times I feel like what we try to do is we say yes to following Jesus, but the reality is we still want to do our own thing and live our own way. And the reality is, and this is with any aspect of life. I know this is, again, it's a big topic, it's a big conversation. Yeah. Maybe one of these sessions should be just kind of delving into more of these kind of themes. But it's like, cool, what does it mean to genuinely follow Jesus? What does it mean to because the whole thing about the Christian lifestyle is like you lay down your life, right? You say, I'm denying myself in order to follow someone that is greater than myself. One of the things that Jesus said is like to his disciples, to his followers, is like, pick up your cross and follow me, which means you pick up the thing that you're going to die on because you're no longer living for yourself. You're living for someone that's greater than you, and that's Jesus. So I feel like for any of those questions, for any of that kind of thinking, is like what does it mean for me to truly follow Jesus, to lay down my life, to truly connect myself to God's perfect plan, and then everything else falls into place. And that's with everything, I believe, is recognizing, one, you're made in the image of God, and two, that your identity is not based on sexuality or anything else, but your identity is based on the fact that God calls you son or daughter, unique, precious, with special value, and with purpose in life.
Yeah.
Any other questions that people have asked?
I mean, we can hear Pappy's response.
Yeah. Yeah, let's hear Pappy's response.
Fully respect your thoughts, not gonna lie. He's saying he doesn't have those feelings himself, but he has some friends who believe in God and other things. And he just wanted to come to a conclusion. I think he's asking around about it. So keep
That's cool.
asking, mate.
Asking those questions, Puppy.
Yeah.
But you know what? But remember what Jesus said. Love God with everything that you have, right? With your mind, with your body, with your actions, with your words, and love your neighbor as yourself. And that means people from different ethnic backgrounds, different socioeconomical backgrounds, different religious beliefs, different sexual orientation, to love other people the same way they love yourself. That is what we're called to do, to love other people and bring people into the knowledge of who Jesus is and being conformed to the image of Jesus. That's what we are really meant to be doing. That's really what we're meant to be doing. That's where our identity lies in. Sweet. Cool. I think, wow, the time is running. Time is running. But we'll be back again next week, and we'll be looking at some other stuff. But if you have any questions, even if you've watched this post live, send us a DM if you have more questions. If you're like, man, I don't really understand what you meant by that, or I don't really agree what you said, that's cool. Just send us a message. We want to keep on chatting. We want to go on this journey to discover this amazing adventure that we can be part of with Jesus. And the Bible is such a beautiful place to start, to know who God is, to know what God's perfect plan is for our lives, what it means to be a true follower of Jesus. Gina, would you pray for us? Would that be okay?
Sure. Yeah, Jesus, thank you. Thank you for the Bible. Thank you that we can get to know you by reading it. Thank you that you speak to us. Thank you that you want to be a part of our life. And yeah, just thank you for anybody that's asked questions or been on this chat with us. Thank you for them. Thank you that you love them. Thank you that you have a plan and a purpose and a meaning for their life. And I just pray that we all have awesome evenings, that we rest well, and that, thank you that you are where all our joy comes from, Lord. Amen.
Amen. Great. Thanks for hanging